morning. Woo. Hello. Thank you so much for that warm introduction. Thank you to AZA for inviting me here. Thank you to Peggy for that great intro. I'm very excited to be here and to share some what I think is very exciting and rather nerdy data with you guys this morning. But before I do that, I do want to take a moment for us all to pause and to say a thank you via round of applause to AZA. They have put on an incredible conference so far. They are a great group. They've brought us all together today. This is hard work. There's a situation room back there of AV, and there's a lot going on. So big round of applause to AZA. Well, happy Tuesday. I hope you all had your coffee, but you're not going to need it because I am here to talk about two innately riveting topics: high-scale, high-confidence market research and financial solvency. Are we pumped? I think we are. I think we're excited. AZA, you're going to get a lot of thank you notes for doing this first thing in the morning. Whew. So who is this overly excited millennial who stands before you? My name is Colleen Dilenschneider. As Dan mentioned very kindly, I am the Chief Market Engagement Officer for a company called Impacts Research and Development. We are a predictive technology and market research company, and we specialize in high-confidence market research using sophisticated data collection technologies. And what I'm here to talk about today is how darn important your mission is for your business. And the reason why I want to do that is because sometimes we think that there's the way we make money, ew, and there's the way we spend it. But what we're actually finding in the data is that today we live, thankfully for all of us, in a world of corporate social responsibility. It is cool to be kind. And now, more than ever, your missions are playing a critical role in driving healthy business practices and bringing people in the door and creating a community of support. So where's the data that I'm going to show you coming from? Well, it's coming from three places. The first, and where most of it in this presentation is coming from, is from impacts monitoring of 224 mission-based visitor-serving organizations in the United States. You'll see a lot of data from there because we collect a lot of those 224 are zoos and aquariums. The second place that it comes from, and if you read Know Your Own Bone, then you're very familiar with this source. It comes from a very large study called the National Awareness, Attitudes, and Usage Study. It is believed to be the largest in-market study of perceptions and behaviors of people in the United States regarding cultural organizations in the US. It is currently over 132,000 people strong. It is very big, and it was originally made possible thanks to the David and Lucille Packard Foundation in partnership with the Monterey Bay Aquarium. So we're very grateful to them for that. And finally, some of what I've brought today comes from Impact's partners. We are very grateful to work with some incredible organizations and some wonderful people. And we're very grateful that they allow us to anonymize and dive deeper and look into data from their institutions. So let's get into the good stuff. Let's start with the really, really good news. There are 4 things that zoos and aquariums do really, really well compared to other visitor-serving cultural organizations, such as art museums, science centers, historic sites, and those 4 things are these. First, your institutions have proven to be reliably satisfying. You provide satisfying experiences. That's really important because we know that the more satisfying an experience is, the more likely people are to come back, and the more likely people are to endorse your organization. This really matters, and arguably, it's the second most important of the 4 that are in this group. Second, you guys are seen as a good way to spend a day off of school or work. That's a big deal, because to get people to come into our doors, we need them to put away the Grubhub, turn off Stranger Things, put on their pants, and come in our doors. And people actually are more likely to want to do that for you guys. Third, there's comparative interest in visiting, which also helps get people to turn off Stranger Things. And fourth, and perhaps most importantly, to be honest, it might tie with number one, you are perceived as being comparatively welcoming. In terms of cultural organizations, you are leading the way in equity, diversity, and inclusion. We still have a ways to go, that's for sure, but you are the institutions that other entities are looking toward. 2 out of 10 people in the United States do not feel comfortable at a zoo or aquarium. And that sounds like bad news, and it is, because that number's not 0. But consider this. 3 out of 10 people in the United States do not feel comfortable at a science museum or a science center. 4 out of 10 people do not feel comfortable at an art museum or botanic garden or history museum. And nearly 5 out of 10 people in the United States do not feel comfortable at an orchestra. These entities all have to deal with very, very urgent issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and many of them are looking to you. We still have a ways to go, but again, let's celebrate that you guys are the leaders in this, and you are creating that change, and you are the people that other folks are looking toward. But we also have some notable business challenges. And I'm going to touch on these 3 really quickly because I can't in good faith go forward with the data presentation without them. They are really important things to lay out in terms of our current condition. The first is we have a shrinking visitor base, and I'll talk about that in a second. Second, our attendance is not keeping pace with population growth. Now, you guys might be thinking, wait a second, Colleen, you just told us that we have the greatest interest in visiting among cultural organizations. And you do. But here's what's happening. You know what? This is a great conference. We're having a great time. This is a lot of work. You guys are using your brains. I bet you all could use a vacation next week. How many of you have interest in going to Hawaii next Tuesday? Oh, good. Okay, you're honest. I like it. Honest people. That's nice. Sometimes nobody raises their hands. I'm like, what is Hawaii? How many of you actually intend to go to Hawaii next Tuesday? Two people really do. We're following those 2 people. The reason why so many fewer of you raise your hands. Oh, I'm so jealous. Have fun. A pina colada for me, please. Instagram it. I'm Colleen Dilenschneider. All right. The reason why so many of you didn't raise your hands is because interest is prerequisite to intent to visit. But when we ask about interest, we take away the tactical barriers that prevent us from going in the first place. Maybe we have work to do to catch up on next Monday. Maybe we'd rather go to Rome instead. There are a lot of reasons why we may not actually be going to Hawaii next week, even though many of us are interested. So our job is to take those folks who have interest and motivate them to come in our doors. And we are not doing that at a rate that is keeping pace with population growth. And third, we have declining favorability. Before you have feelings, don't worry, we're going to talk about this a little bit more in a second. But let's start with our shrinking visitor base. What we're seeing is happening is something that is called the negative substitution of the historic visitor, or de-jargoned, a shrinking visitor base. In the data world, a historic visitor is a person who has visited a zoo or aquarium, in this case we're looking at aquarium, we'll look at zoos next, in the last 2 years. There are certain characteristics that anybody in the United States who has visited a zoo or aquarium in the last 2 years tend to share, generally. And the kind of person who currently attends aquariums and zoos is leaving the United States market faster than they are being replaced. So in other words, for every one person who's exiting the US market via death, relocation, or migration, they are being replaced by less than one person, or 0.985 of a person. Now, there are some of you, and I like you because you're glass is half full people, and you're looking at that number and you're thinking, well, that's not, it starts with a 9. It sounds so bad. It doesn't sound awful. What's actually happening here is this is not great. What this means is if you are an organization that serves, let's say, 1 million people, during the next aquarium engagement cycle, the average aquarium engagement cycle is 23 months. That means on average, for people who go to aquariums, it is 23 months between when they go to one aquarium and then when they go to another aquarium. It may be yours, it may be another aquarium. What this means is for every visitor engagement cycle, we stand to lose this many folks. So if you're an organization, theoretically, who reaches 1 million people, during the next visitor engagement cycle, that same organization, for no fault of their own, except that they're not reaching new audiences, will only welcome 985,000 folks. And that cycle will continue to get, keep going and going and going until we are able to change up the type of person who visits zoos and aquariums. Now let's look at zoos. Zoos are, now for your data people, that looks great. Okay, perspective, it's 0.004 better. It's better. Still, we have an opportunity. What I really want to underscore in this is oftentimes and on boards and in the world that we live, sometimes folks hear diversity, equity, inclusion, and they think, well, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Or worse, well, that sounds like a warm fuzzy. But it's not. This data shows that diversity, equity, and inclusion is a business imperative. And if we do not begin to welcome more diverse audiences in our door, we will, over time, stand to lose more people coming through our doors. The second thing that's happening is our attendance is not keeping pace with population growth. In the last 15 years, the population of the United States has increased 11.8%, but our attendance has only increased 7.1%. To just be baseline, to just be reaching the same percentage of people in the United States, all of our attendances should have gone up 11.8%. So if yours is an organization that is flat or has an incline that is less than 11.8, then you are reaching a smaller percentage of the United States population. So again, it goes back to the need to change up the kind of person who visits and get more folks in our door. And finally, and I'm not going to go deep on this one because this one's a different general session, but we are seeing decreasing views or perceptions of zoos and aquariums. There's a lot going into this. And this is a helpful or interesting slide, but I like this one better. This is the same thing, but it shows the total favorable and total unfavorable together. Now let's put things into perspective for a second. In 2013, 9 out of 10 people in the United States had favorable views of zoos and aquariums. That's awesome. In 2019, 8 out of 10 folks have favorable views of zoos and aquariums. Our perception is still favorable. Also, we are very trusted sources of information. However, this trend is something that we really want to keep in mind, and it's something that we want to try to reverse. Now, there's a lot that goes into it, but there are 2 things that I do want to point out that I've personally noticed aren't involved in the conversation enough. First, this data does correlate with attitude affinities, or how welcoming folks feel at our institutions. So this goes right back to what we were saying. Oftentimes we see this data and we think, oh, they're mad about this, or oh, they're mad about that, and we're really swayed by the things that we're seeing from some very loud people on social media. But it's a lot more complicated than that. It's also feeling welcoming as part of this too. And also, I want to point out, we collect data for a lot of different industries, and you'll see at the end, I will thank some of them, so you'll get to see the kind of entities that we are tracking and looking into. And we live in an increasingly polarized world right now. And that's something that's really important to keep in mind. Because people are so connected, they are forming opinions quickly, and they are using confirmation bias to lock into those opinions. And that's making it harder to change those opinions, and that's not unique to zoos or aquariums. That's something that we're seeing in a lot of different sectors for a lot of different reasons. So just want to introduce that to the conversation when you guys talk about data like this. But this is something that we want to reverse as quickly and as easily as we can. So what's the solution? Well, we've been looking into that a lot, and we have a lot of data on it. And it's becoming increasingly clear that your mission, the way that you make the world better, the way that you care for your animals, it matters. It matters in driving attendance, and it matters for building a community of support. Let me show you. I only have 26 minutes and 22, 25, 24 seconds to go over these really big ideas. So what I've done is I've just brought what I think might be the 3 most compelling or the 3 most interesting to provide some thought fuel for you. So let's see what you think. The first is walk your mission talk. Well, if we want to get people to come to our zoos and aquariums, then we need to know something about what motivates the visitation decision. And thankfully, we know that. Now, you guys are really good people. You're really nice people. So you're probably looking at that US composite chart. And I like you again. Your glass is half full, people. I see you. You exist. But I'm going to encourage you to look at the high propensity visitor chart. A high propensity visitor is a person who has the demographic, psychographic, and behavioral attributes that indicate an increased likelihood to visit a zoo or aquarium. In other words, these are the people who have any interest in visiting us at all. And a historic visitor includes 2 groups of people. First, it includes the historic visitors. Those folks that I just showed you are experiencing negative substitution. But it also includes people that we call inactive visitors. Those are people who actually have interest in visiting your organizations, but for one reason or another have not visited in the last 2 years. These people make up 14% of the United States. That's over 35 million people. 35 million people are low-hanging fruit with an interest in visiting zoos and aquariums, but have not turned off Stranger Things again, or Big Little Lies, that's another very good one, turned it off, not that I do this all the time, turned it off and gone to a zoo or aquarium. So these high propensity visitors, that metric is really important. And for these people, what you guys can see is reputation is a top 2 motivator for visitation. It's second only to schedule. And schedule means being open during the dates and the times in which people actually can and want to attend. This makes sense. So reputation is really important. And you guys are probably thinking, all right, I know what our reputation is, especially if you work in marketing. You're thinking, that is our TripAdvisor score. That is not your TripAdvisor score. We have found that so many more things go into your reputation than how clean your bathroom is, or how easy it is to find parking. Don't get me wrong, those things are very, very important. But other things, aside from visitor satisfaction, that go into your reputation, we've found through the data, are things like your perceived trust, admiration, authority, credibility, and impact awareness. And by impact awareness, this is what people believe is your impact awareness. So it's a matter of having our mission actions, but actually telling that story in a way so that people know that we are carrying out these incredible, impactful actions. Now, luckily for us, we all share something in common, or many of us do. We have a mission statement. Now, Dan spoke about this very well yesterday, but I want to revisit it. This is another word cloud. of our missions. And you guys will notice something, they're very similar, and they highlight conservation. And if just having a mission were enough to have high levels of trust, authority, and credibility, then it would be true that every single zoo or aquarium would have the same high level of trust and authority. But we don't see that. What you're looking at here are 14 zoos and aquariums in the United States. They are AZA Association zoos and aquariums. There's an even mix in this group. And this is how much they are trusted. And you'll notice something pretty quickly. Oh, and I should also mention, all 14 of these have an admission basis. So these are all paid admission organizations. You'll notice something pretty quickly, and that's that the levels of trust are different. There are some institutions, particularly I and J, that are so very, very, very trusted. In fact, scalar variable of 84 and 83 is very high. And in fact, it passes what is the most agreed upon, one of the most agreed upon sentences in the United States. Kittens are cute. People trust I and J as much as they believe kittens are cute. And I also want to point out C, D, E, F, and L because they surpass or come close to how much people love their mother. Many of the organizations in this room, all of these organizations in this room generally are trusted. But you'll also notice that not all of them are at the same levels. So we wanted to look into this a little bit more, and I'll take you guys along for the ride. What else do we know about these 14 organizations? Well, they're also the most admired. And interestingly, the United States views them as conservation organizations. These entities have gone out of their way to be known as conservation organizations. And that might be surprising to some of you. Now, I would not be a good data person if this didn't happen. So it's going to happen. I'm going to show you a text slide, but it's all right. We're going to get through it. Just listen to the sound of my voice. We're going to get through this together. What I'm about to show you guys are two composite metrics. Composite metrics are metrics that are composed of related and weighted metrics. And they're weighted according to how important they are to the outcome. All right, ready? Ready? There it is. All right, sound of my voice, sound of my voice. Focus here, focus here. The first composite metric that I'm going to show you is called revenue efficiency. In short, it is a measure of financial health. It contemplates things like your earned and contributive revenues, your program revenues, your admission revenues, your grants. Did I say that? Yes, all of those things contemplated by the number of people that you serve on site. Again, it's a measure of financial health. The second metric that I'm going to show you is called reputational equities. And that is a composite metric that includes things like trust, authority, credibility. Impact awareness is one of them that's also included in this. And also visitor satisfaction, because that is also very important to how you're perceived in doing your mission. But essentially, how well you deliver on your mission. And here's what we find. Organizations that highlight their mission financially outperform those marketing primarily as attractions. I'm going to say that again because it's really important. We are finding today and more that organizations that highlight their mission financially outperform those marketing primarily as attractions. And again, you're looking at the same 14 that we've been looking at in the last 3 slides. Ooh, I like it when you guys take pictures. I'm a millennial, I love affirmation, so I'm seeing a lot of, so I'll pick on myself for a second. I'm seeing a lot of photos go up. Walk your mission talk. That's how we're going to increase our reputations or change our reputations and make it such that we are institutions that make the world a better place. And you're going to have fun, and the bathrooms are going to be clean, and you're going to be able to park. And we are making the world a better place. Now let's talk about maximizing repeat attendance. Oh, I like this one. This is a huge pat on the back to you guys. In year 2011, on average, 33.9% of zoo and aquarium visitors were repeat visitors, meaning that they were visiting that same institution for the second, third, fourth, or more time. They were repeat, coming back to the same institution. Today, by the end of year 2018, that was 43.3% of visitors. This is great news. It means that we are getting people to come back. And this doesn't happen on accident. You guys did this on purpose. Raise your hand if yours is an organization that has a person or a team devoted to audience research, evaluation, or works with a partner that helps you with those things. Oh, my heart. Yes, yes. What's happening is you guys are getting better and better at knowing what makes your current audiences happy, and you are delivering on that promise, and it is paying off. Your audience research and your audience evaluation, it is paying off in repeat attendance from the same audiences. Again, we want to welcome new audiences, but this is a great opportunity. And you already know where I'm going with this, but let's talk about why. What is the primary benefit of membership? Well, when you ask somebody, or when we ask people who were born before 1980, their number one benefit of membership was free admission, then priority access, members-only functions, advance notice of upcoming activities, and member discounts. When we ask millennials what the top primary benefits of membership are, they say 1, free admission, no change there. People love free admission. 2, belonging to the organization. 3, supporting the organization. 4, supporting the mission. And 5, making a positive impact on the mission objective. Now, I want to take a few seconds to stop here because for one glorious moment, millennials look awesome. Yes, woo, yeah, for millennials in the room. We look great for a second. I'm gonna ruin it. I'm sorry, team. Here's what we're finding is actually happening here. When you ask a person who's born before 1980 what the primary benefits of membership are, they've been in the market longer. They've heard more of our marketing messages. So the first thing they think is, all right, what have I been told are the primary benefits of marketing? Scan, remember, back, marketing materials, brochure, snail mail, what did I get, what do I get? And they list the top benefits of what they've been told are the primary benefits of membership. What we know about millennials is that millennials are members, and they are able to identify those transaction-based motivators for membership, but they haven't been delivered that message for as many years. So when we ask them about the primary benefit of membership, what comes to mind may presumably be what may matter more to them. So we wanted to look into this, and indeed, this does not belong to millennials. We find that it is not mutually exclusive. There are people who are mission-based members who really like exclusive access. And there are people who are transaction-based members, but they still want to believe that they still want to know that they are supporting your mission. So don't lose that opportunity. So what we did is we took everybody who said that the primary benefit was free admission, and we put them in one column, then belonging, supporting, impact, exclusive access, and discounts. And what we found is that mission-based members, as a primary factor, have higher value for cost perceptions of their memberships. They believe that they're getting a better bang for their buck by being your member and supporting you. They also buy higher priced memberships. This is excellent news, and they're more likely to renew those memberships. Why does this matter? This matters because joining an organization by buying a membership is seen by people in the United States as the top way to support your mission, even more than making a donation. So if yours is an institution that says that the primary reason, these are good reasons, free admission, people want that. That is the biggest category that people want. But if we're forgetting to highlight that one of the reasons to join us is to support our mission, then we may be missing out on a really important opportunity to show that we actually need and want that support. And they're right, that totally counts as a way to support us. And then we can get them in the funnel, hopefully get them to donate, and keep further engaging with them. So this repeat attendance that zoos and aquariums have cultivated, it is ripe for mission-based opportunity to cultivate support, build funds so that you can use those funds to fuel your mission, and it's this great, big, glorious circle of changing the world. How easy does that sound, right? Well, hopefully this will help, and it provides a little bit of thought fuel. Finally, creating meaningful connections. So you may have noticed I have been weing you. I've been saying we have these barriers to overcome. We are the most satisfying. We are experiencing decreasing views. The reason why I'm doing that is because this is personal to me. As Dan mentioned, I'm on the board of directors at the National Aquarium. This is a beautiful photo from the National Aquarium. So when I am talking about this, I'm not just doing it from an outside perspective, like, hey, yeah, go forth. I'm personally in this too. And now that we're getting personal, let's talk about PFEs. PFEs are personal facilitated experiences. Now I want to take a second and talk about what happens on site. Because on-site is often a touch point, a physical touch point for your mission. And what happens on-site matters. A PFE is a one-to-one or a one-to-few interaction between a volunteer or a staff member, doesn't matter which one, as long as they're associated with the zoo or aquarium. So I'll start over, because I just lost my train of thought. Apologies, rewind. A PFE is a one-to-one or a one-to-few interaction between a staff member or a volunteer, between a staff member and a volunteer and an individual, couple, or small group. It is a moment of time where someone comes into our zoo or aquarium and they have a moment with one of our representatives where we see them and they see us. It is a personal interaction. Now, what does this mean? PFEs are in the eye of the beholder. All we do is ask folks, so, did you have a personal interaction on site? And if they say yes, whatever it is counts as a PFE. PFEs are not shows, they're not group tours. Those things certainly have value. This is when somebody has an unplanned or unforeseen interaction that makes them feel like they're getting some sort of access or having some sort of moment of connection at your institution. PFEs are the best thing that we've found, the easiest way we've found to increase entertainment experience, education experience, employee courtesy, and they are so impactful at increasing visitor satisfaction that you can do what we call flood the zone and deploy frontline staff during times when you're really crowded or you're setting up for an event, and you can increase visitor satisfaction by day part. So what are the most impactful PFEs? I'm glad you guys asked in your heads, because I have the data on that. This data has not been on Know Your Own Bone yet. This will be on Know Your Own Bone in November, so you are getting a bit of a preview here. But these are the personal interactions, and I'll go through them, that happen on site that significantly raise visitor satisfaction. To put this into context, in my line of work, when we see something that increases visitor satisfaction by 5%, we stop and take note. If it increases visitor satisfaction by 10%, we drop the mic. And if it increases visitor satisfaction by 20%, like the mic's across the room. That is a really, really big jump in visitor satisfaction. So what are we looking at here? The bottom line is the average satisfaction rate, or average satisfaction score, among the cultural organizations for which we're monitoring this that have not had a PFE. That is 68.3. And as you will see, a retail or food service interaction goes a really long way in increasing visitor experience, 8.5 and 9%. That's incredible, by a meaningful food service interaction. Now, a thing I do want to note, this isn't just, bam, they ordered a hamburger, increased 10%, increased 9% satisfaction. It has to be some sort of interaction that person personally finds meaningful or they remember afterwards. A greeting, a warm personal greeting, can increase satisfaction 9.37%. Wayfinding, helping someone find the bathroom or find the exhibit that they're trying to get to, that's a 10.4% boost. Complimentary revisitation, or giving them a pass to come back, that's 10.83. Now, all others combined average, that's an interesting one. That is everything else. The question is, why is that so high? That includes the small things, like somebody asking where the nearest CVS is, for instance, on their way out the door. But it also includes some really big things, and specifically, things that I'm going to label alleviating suffering that we did not cause. That includes things like a family is there and a child is having a difficult moment and somebody from the education department or frontline staff rushes in and saves the day. That's when somebody loses their cell phone or their necklace and we help them find it. This is when we step in and we are superheroes and we make their day better because something happened. But again, it also includes the smaller things as well. But that is why that is so high on the chart. Complimentary gift or product increases visitor satisfaction 11.27%. This does not mean you need to be giving out something expensive, just something meaningful. Here's my favorite personal example that may relate to several organizations in this room. My favorite example is from the Science Museum of Minnesota. They are doing the thing, I'm going to look for some nods for some of you who may also be doing this. They have an IMAX theater. Nods? Oh, good. I'm seeing a few. They have an IMAX theater. And recently, they had a situation where they had to get rid of a lot of film and switch it over to a new kind of film. And as a result, they had to throw away rolls and rolls or spools. I'm not good at this stuff, but the film, and throw it out. So instead of throwing it out, what they did was they cut up little pieces of film. And when you were inside the Science Center, they would give people little bits of this IMAX film and a little bit of personal history, of history with a personal experience on IMAX film. And it was a really nice thing. So there's an example, and those kind of things can go a long way. Finally, or not finally, second to finally, you guys know this one and you guys do this well. Exhibit interpretation. This is, and you know who I'm talking about, this is that volunteer you have, that chatty and friendly volunteer you have who can always find the sloth. You know that volunteer? Yes, yeah, I know. I know that volunteer who can do those things. Or that volunteer who just can't stand it. They're so excited about the eating schedule of, the rhino. These are the volunteers and the staff members who provide a bit of exhibit interpretation. This is a bit of, if you will, a guided tour. So there's a person to talk to about the experience, about the animal, about the things that happen at the zoo or aquarium. And of course, impacting visitor satisfaction by 20% is a behind-the-scenes experience. Now, don't get confused. This is not a behind-the-scenes guided tour. That's a different thing. That's not a PFE. This is a bit of perceived behind-the-scenes experience information. It may be taking someone into a back room. That sounded bad, but oops. You know what move along. But more often than not, it's giving somebody access to what feels like behind-the-scenes information. Perhaps the most popular example of this is when a diver in a tank is cleaning the tank and waves at the visitors. People take a selfie. They're seeing the tank get cleaned while having a personal, unique interaction with that individual who is cleaning the tank. That is a great experience of a behind-the-scenes interaction that significantly increases visitor satisfaction. We also find that a lot of these come from security guards. People just don't think they're going to get interesting behind-the-scenes information from security guards. So when hey, you should have been here last week when the hippo or the seal or when this happened, we find that those also create a really big bump. So again, it doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be bad information. It's just information that makes somebody feel like they're getting insider information and because in the right place at the right time with the right person, and thus they get to have a unique experience, because unique experiences are what we are all craving today. And these lend to that. PFEs are really important. Now, the last point I want to make is also a personal one. One of my favorite things about the work that I do is that I get to work with incredible people. Get to work with incredible people, and it's true. But one thing I've noticed about so many of you in the room is you are so passionate. And so many of you have these things that we call spark moments. And that is that moment where, maybe you were visiting on a field trip, or maybe you're with your family, or maybe you were an adult in college, and you went to a zoo or aquarium, or you had an interaction with an animal, and you thought, hey, I want to dedicate my life to this. This is cool. Whether you had that thought that explicitly or not, a big part of that moment is why you are in this room today. And I'd like to share with you my spark moment. I'm from a suburb of Chicago, that's the accent, and I'm the oldest of 4 children. When I was 10 years old, my mother instigated a thing called special days. It only lasted for 3 years, but what she would do is over the summer, she'd take each of the 4 of us individually to downtown Chicago, and we could do whatever we wanted. And she meant it. She meant it. I was the oldest, so I was the last of the 4. My brother went first, and he went on a pirate cruise around Navy Pier, and he spoke like a pirate for a week afterwards, and I'm still kind of low-key annoyed by the memory, because it was so irritating by how much he spoke pirate for the next 2 weeks. My sister got a massive stuffed dog from FAO Schwartz, and I was so excited. I knew exactly where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to the Art Institute of Chicago because they were having a Monet exhibit. I told you I was a nerd when we started. So this shouldn't be surprising. But I was so excited, and I was so excited because I loved and love art. And I knew that my mom loved and loved art, and I was so excited for this trip. I saved up my learning to babysit money. I was 10 years old. That was a thing in the mid-90s. And I bought this washed-out jean dress from Limited 2. Thank you for understanding. It was a very big deal. And I remember so much about that trip. I remember walking into the Art Institute and the smell of being in that museum. I remember the wayfinding signs, which is a strange thing to remember. I remember turning the corner into the exhibit and seeing my first stacks of wheat or Monet's haystacks over people's heads. I remember so much about that experience, but the thing that I remember most is that it was a special day with my mom. Who people are with is 2.5 times more important than what they see when they go to a zoo, aquarium, or any kind of cultural organization. That does not mean that what people see is unimportant. This whole thing doesn't even happen without the what. But we can't forget that who people are with matters. You have a superpower, whether you acknowledge it or not. You are facilitators of shared experiences. You don't just tell stories, you make stories every single day on site. You make stories that make up our lives, just like the story that I just told you that has led me to this stage today. You create those moments, and you create those moments around your missions, That's the work that you do. The work that you guys do for your mission is multifaceted. You are doing incredible things, from saving species, incredible research, trying to change policies and make the world a better place. And on top of that, give yourselves a pat on the back, because you are also facilitating shared experiences that make our lives meaningful. Oh, here we go. Thanks. Today, it's cool to be kind. We live in a corporate social responsibility world. Being good at your mission is good for your business. So I want to say thank you all for having me today. Go forth, execute your missions. It's so important for bringing folks in the door. I hope that I've provided some thought fuel for you. A really quick shout out of appreciation to some of the entities who have contributed to this data, who have allowed us to share some anonymized information that we've collected on their behalf. And I'd love to connect with you guys. So please stay in touch. And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the incredible work that you do. And thanks, AZA.